Hello, it's Mike McLean, and welcome to my YouTube channel, where every week I give out the best tips in the business on how to make money and save money renting out Section 8 properties. Hello everyone, it's Mike McLean from the Section 8 Bible with your Section 8 Landlord Tip of the Week. But before I get to this week's tip, I just want to touch on last week's tip, which was the rolling log mousetrap. I just want to touch on that for a minute or two, all right? I got a lot of comments, both good and bad, about the rolling log mousetrap, all right? Now, I prefer if you guys are going to leave comments, leave them directly on the YouTube channel right underneath the video. That way, other landlords can see the comments. We can bounce back and forth off of each other. Maybe we'll all learn something off of each other, you know? I mean, if there's a guy out in New Orleans that has a great way to catch mice, he could throw it up on the YouTube channel, and we will all see it rather than just me seeing it. All right, now let's get into last week's tip for just a minute. A lot of people said, Mike, I love that tip. Once you get rid of the mice that way, you get rid of them for good because the mice are dead. But I also got a handful, probably a little better than a handful of comments saying, Mike, I didn't really like that tip because it's kind of inhumane how you drown the mice. I kind of expected that, and I agree with it a little bit. But let me just explain the 4 ways that I talked about last week in catching the mice. The first one was the snap traps, which will snap or break the mouse neck the minute he's caught in the mouse trap, all right? The second one would be if you left out poison. If a mouse eats the poison, it's going to take him 24 to 36 hours to die. His insides explode and he dies a horrible death, all right? And the third thing was the glue traps. Now, if a mouse gets caught on a glue trap, his first instincts are going to be to chew one or both limbs off to get off of that glue trap. Now, once they chew their limbs off, again, they're going to die because they can't get around to look for food. So they're going to die anyway. So out of the 4 different ways, including the rolling log, I kind of think mine is the most humane way out of all 4. But that's just my 2 cents. And also, like I said in the video, you don't have to fill that bucket up with water. You can leave the bucket empty. Once you catch the mice, you can take them, I don't know, a mile down the street and dump them in a field, just as long as they don't find their way back to your house. So that's just my thoughts on the rolling log mousetrap. All right, let's get into this week's tip. I told you last week I'm going to tell you how not to rent your Section 8 property, okay? And this is the first way you should never, ever, ever rent your Section 8 property, and it's with one of these guys right here. It's a for rent sign. Never use one of these, because this is how a crackhead looking for a fix or a homeless guy looking for a bottle of wine is going to read your for rent sign. That's right. I'm vacant. Please come on in and rip me off. All right? Let's say a crackhead's walking down the street at 12 o'clock at night, looks up in the window and sees your for rent sign. First thing he's going to do is know that that house is vacant. All right? He's also going to know that nobody's home and nobody's there to call the cops on him if he tries to break in. So let's say he goes around back and Jimmy's that basement door open. If you left any tools in the house, he's going to steal those, which would be your fault. But most likely, the number one thing that he's after is the copper that is in the house, all right? Now, he's going to strip all that copper out of there, take it to the scrapyard, and he's going to get $100 for the copper. You, on the other hand, it's going to cost you $1,500 at least to put the copper back into the house if you hire a plumber to do it. So these things here, the for rent signs, don't use them. For $2, you're costing yourself a whole lot more trouble, all right? The second way that doesn't work is Craigslist. Now, I get a lot of people saying, Mike, I love Craigslist. It's free. I rent my properties, and within 2 or 3 days, my property's rented, and that's fine. But I know about 4 or 5 guys that have been ripped off using Craigslist. One guy in particular was not ripped off once. He was ripped off twice. Let me tell you how stupid this guy is. The first time he runs an ad on Craigslist, he pulls up to the house. There's 2 guys waiting out front for him to see the house. He lets them in. The one guy sticks a gun underneath his chin. He takes the landlord's watch. He takes the landlord's wallet. And he drives off with his brand new 2014 Ford F-250 truck. All right? Think he learned his lesson? No. About a month later, he lists another property on Craigslist. He shows up again. There's one guy out front. He lets him in his house to view the property. The guy walks around. The landlord doesn't go around with him. So the guy goes in the basement and unlocks the basement door, walks back out and tells the guy he's not interested in the property. That night, he comes back, goes right through the basement door that he left open while he was on his tour, and he rips off all the landlord's copper. So there's another tip for you. Whenever I'm showing a property, I never ever let anybody wander around the property by themselves. If there's a woman with her 2 children, I make sure we all stay together as a pack. The crowd never splits up. I don't have 2 people in this room, 1 in that room. All the time, everybody stays directly with me. Now, even after the showing's over and I escort them out of the house, I'll go back around, check the doors and check the windows just to make sure everything's locked, because the last thing I want to do is get ripped off. So that's another thing that doesn't work, and that is Craigslist, okay? Now let me tell you about 2 ways that do work. One is a website called GoSection8.com. Now I'm a gold member on this website. It costs me about $30 a month. It's got all the bells and whistles. I can list as many properties as I want on there. I can take as many pictures. I think I even throw a video up on there. But what it really does best for you is it screens your tenants for you. The tenant has to leave a legitimate phone number, which they're called back on. They have to have an email set up, and they also have to leave their housing authority information with GoSection8.com. So before they even get out to the house, you know who's coming. Nobody's going to come out to a house to rip you off if you know who they are. All right, so that's one way I use is GoSection8.com. Now another way I do it, let's say I'm living in Detroit and I'm renting all my properties out in Detroit Housing Authority, okay? I'll use their local website, Detroit Housing Authority's website, and I'll put my properties up on their website. That way, if there somebody calls and says, I seen your ad in Detroit Housing Authority website, I know they're legit and I know they're actually looking for a house and not looking to rip me off. Another tip, when I call these people back on the phone, I ask them, do you have your voucher with you? If you're just out kicking tires and wasting time, go waste another landlord's time. They have to have that voucher with them in order for me to show them the house. Because if they don't have the voucher, they're just wasting your time. Another reason I want them to have the voucher is because that way I know they're legitimately looking for a property and not trying to scam you, okay? So there are the 2 ways that I do that are good. The GoSection8.com and the local housing authorities' websites, all right? Too bad one's this piece of shit. It's not worth the $2 that you're going to pay for it. It's going to be nothing but hassles. This is what it translates to, okay? The other way, the other bad way is Craigslist. The 2 good ways, GoSection8.com and, of course, the Housing Authority website. All right, tune in next week when I talk about being called a slumlord, the difference between being a slumlord and being a landlord. I'm going to talk about the 2 differences, okay? That's next week. Also, you can get over to my website, www.section8bible.com. You can check out all my products there, my leases there, the books are there, but most of all, something that other authors and people selling books on the websites don't offer is I offer my time. If you've read my books, looked at my websites, and looked at my tips on YouTube and say, well, I think this guy can really help me out, I'm the only guy out there that offers my time. You could talk to me for half an hour. You could talk to me an hour. You'll see a big red button that says Talk to Mike on the website. Make sure you press it. If you got any questions, I'll see if I can get them answered for you. Anyway, thanks for tuning in, and I will see you guys next week. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed my video. If you found it helpful, make sure you subscribe and share. Also, you can get over to my website, www.section8bible.com, and you can check out all my products there. Thanks for watching.